A couple of days ago, I saw this ad for Swatch Watches, where they held a competition where people could submit their photos and join this challenge to win some sort of prizes. Simple, but very effective, so I thought, you know what, actually our animated social post template should make it really easy to create such ad as a video. So I spent a little bit of time this morning and I built this ad. So I'm going to play it and I'll just kind of walk you through it. So we open up on a shot that says new photo challenge, and then we have a couple of photos that slide into that shot. Then the camera moves to the right and we have 3 photos coming in. Then the action is repeated once again. And finally we wrap up the ad with a call to action shot saying join the challenge. And then we have a bunch of icons that I just dropped in from this template. So I guess what I want to do over the next 20 minutes or so is show you how you can build this whole ad using our animated social post template for After Effects. Now you can do it without the template, and I'll include some downloadable assets for you. But this is, you'll see that this actually saves you a lot of time if you're using the template. So, okay, so let me get this out of the way and we can get started. So to start with, I'm going to open up our animated scenes over here. And I have a scene called Post Carousel, which we can use as a starting point. Because what it does basically is it starts on one tweet, and then a few moments later, it moves to the next one, and then to the third one. So mechanically, it's quite similar to what we're looking for, and at least this way we have the camera movement already animated. So to start with, I should probably set up my composition settings, and I'm going to call it IG for Instagram, map challenge video ad. Right, and I'm going to set it to a square format, which is 1080 by 1080. And then I'm going to set my duration to 15 seconds. All right, and so that will be my scene. And let me just quickly drop this into a separate folder so we can keep things organized. So next I'll import a couple of additional assets that I have already prepared. And so what we have here is we have a pin icon, which we'll use on the map, the world map itself, and then a bunch of photos that will be used for each of the posts. So let's organize these as well. All right, cool. So next, let's add the correct background to our scene. We'll delete these guys. I'm going to take the world map and drop it in here. Turn these guys off for now. Make it a 3D layer. Enable this guy so that our vector map doesn't lose resolution as we're scaling it up. Move somewhere here, I suppose. And next, let's create a new solid, and we're going to call it water. And now I can give my continents or my world map some color by adding generate, fill. And let's make it green. Yeah, something like that. And then finally, I want to add that outline to our map, like you see here. So on our world map, I'm going to go to Layer Styles and give it an outer glow. And let me set this up real quick. All right, great. And so that's the map then. Next, we can set up our camera. So as it stands, our camera is already moving from left to right, but at the moment it's centering to each one of these posts. And this is not how I want it to work, as we'll have 3 posts coming in here. So let's quickly rewire how this works. I'm going to create 3 null objects, and I'm going to link our camera to these nulls. call it cam position 1, 2, and 3. And I'm going to make these 3D layers. Move 2 over here, and move 3 somewhere over here. Now in my scene settings, I want my post 1 to be camera position 1, second camera position 2, and camera position 3 for the third post. And now if we look at it quickly, we can see that at position 2, we are centered on the second null, and same goes for position 3. You see, the way this works is that we have these 3 markers numbered 1, 2, and 3. And they tell our camera that at that point in time, it should be positioned over a post, or in our case, it's a null object, that has that sequence number assigned to it. And then we have this number over here, which tells the camera how many seconds it should take to move to that post. So in our case, it's 2 seconds, and thus the camera will start moving from null 1 to null 2, 2 seconds before it hits the second marker. I hope that makes sense. So in general, this is a pretty neat system here, and that speeds up this whole kind of camera animation process quite a bit. And so, for example, now if I want to speed up all of my camera moves from one point to the next one, all I have to do is set this move duration to say 1.6 seconds. Easy, right? And then let's just adjust these guys a bit. All right, and so now that we have our map design and camera motion set up, I'd like to start laying down some of the animation. Let's start with the pins. I grab this pin graphic and drop it over here. Then go pre-compose, and I'll give it a bit of animation by adding a couple of keyframes. There, something like that. So we go back, make it 3D, rescale it, maybe 30%, and I'll change its color by adding a color correction and then change to color effect. I'll say I want to change from this pink color to a light yellow, and I want you to affect its hue, lightness, and saturation so that I get the exact color that I select here. And perhaps we can also give it a little bit of a drop shadow like that. All right, and so that's our pin 1. Now let's move it over here and give it a different color, pink, duplicate it, and let's set up 3 pins on this stage. This guy I want to be light blue, and then this guy maybe pink. Let's offset them a bit. That's nice. All right, and that's our 3 pins done on the first shot. Next, let's repeat this on the next 2 shots. Actually, let me just check these positions, as I don't think they're right. Okay, yeah. And so the second null should be a bit to the right of Saudi. So let's move it like this. And then position number 3 should be somewhere here. Now I see that we're missing our map over here. So let's duplicate another copy of it. Move it over here. All right, so now that I know my positions are correct, I can add those pins to the following 2 shots. Grab my 3 pins, duplicate them, put them over here, move their position onto the shot, and then let's just move them around and change their colors so they don't look the same. And then I'm going to speed this up as we repeat the steps once again while I'm adding the pins to the third location. All right, so now with our pins in place, we can start adding in the posts. I'm going to get rid of these two posts, turn on the first one, and let's see what we have here. Okay, so we have a tweet coming in like that, but say instead of the tweet, I want an Instagram post. So we go reveal layer source and project. And here in my social posts, I have a couple of different types of posts. And for the first one, I want to use an animated one, as I wanted to animate in at the start. But for the rest of them, I'll be using these still posts, as they don't need to be animated. So animated post, I hold down the Option or the Alt key on the PC, drag it over my post in the timeline, and replace it like this. It's a little too big, so let's scale it down. I'll move it forward so that its animation starts a little earlier. Okay, so now it comes in, holds for a little bit, and then we move to the second location. Good. So now, if I remember correctly, after a couple of seconds, it should move down here, as well as scale down as the other two posts come in above it. So let me quickly add a couple of scale and position keyframes here. And we're going to create that animation. All right, so I think that's pretty close. And that's our first post done. Let's just quickly preview this. So we have those guys dropping in. We have this post animating in. It holds for a few seconds, so we can animate in the graphic. And then it settles into its final position. All right, so that's good. Next, we want to create two more posts, and it's going to be the two guys that slide in from the side. I duplicate the original post, get rid of these keyframes. I position it like this, tilt it like that, and I'm going to animate its Z rotation as well as the position. And we move it off screen over here, and then rotate it even more, and then ease into these two keyframes so that it slows down smoothly. Now, following the same steps, I'm going to add the second post that comes in from the right. Now, let's preview this. Okay, I think that works. And now, as our camera moves to the right, we need another 3 posts over here. So I'm going to duplicate these two, move them over here, and position them above. And now I want to move them here to their correct position. And so there's a trick here that you can use to move this item while retaining its animation. And the way you do that is you select both of its keyframes, position the marker on either one of the keyframes here, and then you can move this guy without losing its animation. That's nice, right? So we do the same with the second post. Swap them around so they look a little bit different here. And finally, I duplicate this guy to create the third post. I move it here to the bottom. I remove the rotation animation. And here we move it down so that it slides in from below. Let's preview this. And perhaps they could move in a little faster. There, that's great now. And then we do this once again to add these 3 posts to the third location. Okay, so with this in place, we can now preview the whole animation to see how it all looks. Okay, and that looks really good. So next, what are we going to do next? I suppose we can start customizing each one of these posts so that they have the correct content in them. And now if I check my reference video, I can see that the first one should have a graphic like that says new photo challenge. So how about we build that? I go into post 1, and it has this element here which is called media block image video, and it's this guy over here. So what I want to do is create its instance just in case any of the other posts that are already using this as well. And we're going to call it opening post. And then using the alt drag approach, which we're going to be using a lot right now, I'll swap it out. Now I can go inside, and we can fill this image here with a solid fill to give it a blue water-like background. And then I want to have that animated green line. So I grab my pen tool, and we add bam, 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 bam. Remove this fill, and we add a stroke. Make the stroke about this wide. And then give it a green color. Something like that. So next we can animate it. And we do that by adding a property called trim paths. And here we animate its end. So it starts with a 0 and then animates like that to create this kind of zigzag effect. And then the next thing we need is our text. New photo challenge. Let's adjust this real quick. Give it a wide stroke. All right, and for our animation, I'm going to drop it in with just a couple of scale keyframes. Okay, let's just preview this in our main comp. All right, perfect. And so let me just show you how you can customize this post a little bit more. And so I can change the username to brand name and change location to, say, brand office. And then we have the logo. So let's find this comp. Duplicate it to create a new instance. Let's replace it in our comp. Go into it. And I'm going to replace this graphic with our pin. And I'm also going to add a blue circle behind it. Good. So let's just check this. All right, great. And now we have the icon. Okay, and then what else can we do here? As you can see here in this post description, this username has automatically changed to whatever the username is over here. So that's kind of nice. And then we can also change this message, and we can get it to say something like new photo challenge for all of our fans. Enter this competition and be in with a chance to win some amazing prizes. Good. So we have a custom post with this nice opening graphic here. So that's done, and next I want to customize these two guys. So you can see they currently all look the same, as they're all just an instance of the same post, which is this guy over here. So the first one is good, but for the other ones, I actually want to use a still post. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to duplicate this guy. I'm going to call it post 1, and then create a whole bunch of copies of it so that each of these posts is unique. And so that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And let's start swapping them out. So that's post 1, post 2, and I'm going to skip this to the last one so you don't have to watch it. That's the last one, and now we have the 8 unique posts. So now we can change the content inside of them, and it will only change on that one post. So post 1, there's one more step where we have to pretty much repeat this whole process once again. So what I have to do here is I need to make sure that each post has its own copy of this image over here. As otherwise, if I just change the image inside this comp, it will change for all of the posts that are using it. So for that, we renamed this post 1 and create all 8 of them. And this guy will be using post 1. This guy post 2, and we do the same for the rest of them. Okay, and with that done, I can now go into my post 1, go into this image comp, and I can replace this image here with one of the photos. Let's scale it down. And that's our first photo. And so using the same approach, we can replace all of the rest of the photos. And now let me quickly preview this to make sure that all of the posts have been updated correctly. And so that's looking good. So let me just do a quick preview to see how all of this looking all together. All right, and that's actually really good. And I think we're actually nearly there with our tutorial. The very last thing we need to do here is we need to add that end screen at the very end. So let's do that. I'll create a new solid, pre-compose it, go back to the comp, and I'll animate its position so that it slides in from the right. Here's something like this. Maybe slow down a little bit more. And so this is our end screen. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into my first post and copy these elements as they're exactly the same, and I don't want to rebuild them from scratch again. So I copy them and I paste them over here. They're a little too big, so let's scale them down and position like this. And then over here, it should say what? It should say join the challenge. And I can see that we also need a map in the background as well. So let's do that. Join the challenge. Make it a little smaller. Add a hashtag. Let's reduce the stroke. And that's looking good. So let's drop in the map. Give it a fill. Now maybe drop its opacity to 20%. Okay, maybe 35. And so the last thing that we need to do in this scene is add those emoji icons. And they are located in this comp over here. And as you can see, they're all fully animated here. So I just copy them and paste them here. And I'm going to move them around to create a more interesting composition. And maybe create another copy and move this guy over here. And I'll probably want them to start a little bit earlier. Something like that. And let's just preview this. Looking good. Looking good. And I think that's our whole ad done. So let's just preview this one last time. There we go. And that's a perfectly professional video ad that you could create either for your own channel or say even a social media agency or just a regular client of yours. And as you can see, it didn't even take us that long to create it. Overall though, I hope this gives you an idea for how you can build an ad like this. I'm going to package this project up with all of its assets, minus the post. And we'll give you a downloadable link in the description so you can download and play around with it at your own time. I'll also include a version that you can use even if you don't have the animated social post template. Alright, so that's it from me. I hope you learned something new here today, and feel free to leave any questions in the comment section below.